While modern politics churns through fleeting fashions and partisan storms, certain principles remain as enduring as granite foundations beneath shifting sands. In my decades of study from my library in Mecosta, I have observed that genuine conservatism rests not upon reaction or mere opposition, but upon 6 fundamental canons that have guided civilized societies through every crisis imaginable. These principles transcended Burke's age, sustained the American founding, and offer wisdom for our own troubled times. They are not political strategies but philosophical truths about human nature and social order that have proven themselves across centuries of testing. Today, as ideological radicalism threatens the very roots of Western civilization, understanding these 6 canons becomes not merely academic exercise, but urgent necessity for cultural survival. For those who would preserve the permanent things against the corrosive acids of modernity, these principles provide both compass and anchor in the storm. They reveal why true conservatism never grows obsolete, because it addresses the unchanging realities of the human condition rather than temporary political configurations. Chapter 1: The Divine Telos, Belief in a Transcendent Order. The first canon of conservative thought acknowledges that human society finds its purpose and meaning in relationship to a transcendent moral order that exists independently of human will or democratic preference. This is not mere religious sentiment or cultural nostalgia, but recognition of an essential truth that separates civilization from barbarism. Without connection to something higher than temporal material existence, human communities inevitably descend into either tyranny of the strong or chaos of competing appetites. Throughout history, the greatest civilizations have understood this principle with remarkable consistency. Ancient Israel's divine law, Platonic philosophy's pursuit of the eternal good, Aristotelian ethics grounded in human nature's highest possibilities, medieval Christendom's synthesis of faith and reason, and America's founding appeal to nature's God and self-evident truths all testify to humanity's profound need for transcendent anchoring. This is not accident but necessity. Human beings require moral landmarks that exist beyond the shifting preferences of any particular generation or cultural moment. When societies abandon this foundation in favor of pure human autonomy, they do not become more rational or enlightened. They become prey to secular ideologies that promise heaven on earth while delivering hell in practice. The French Revolution demonstrated this truth with bloody clarity that should have instructed all subsequent generations. When the revolutionaries declared themselves the supreme arbiters of justice and morality, rejecting both divine law and historical wisdom, they unleashed terror that consumed even its architects. Robespierre's Republic of Virtue became a slaughterhouse precisely because it recognized no authority higher than revolutionary will. The Russian Revolution repeated this pattern on an even grander scale, as did every major totalitarian movement of the modern era. Whether fascist or communist, these movements have consistently emerged from societies that rejected transcendent order in favor of human will to power dressed in ideological rhetoric. Without objective moral standards that check human ambition, politics becomes merely organized predation where the strongest impose their vision through force. This canon does not demand particular theological formulations or sectarian commitments, but it insists that human beings are more than material creatures driven by appetite and self-interest. We are moral beings capable of recognizing objective standards of right and wrong that exist independently of our preferences. These standards provide the measuring rod by which we judge both individual conduct and social arrangements, enabling genuine justice rather than mere power struggles. In our contemporary context, this principle challenges both secular materialism and religious fundamentalism with equal force. Against materialism, it affirms the reality of moral law that cannot be reduced to evolutionary programming or social conditioning. Against fundamentalism, it maintains that this law operates through reason, conscience, and tradition rather than through force or fanaticism, recognizing that the transcendent order enables genuine human freedom by providing objective standards that check both individual license and collective tyranny. Chapter 2, Unity in Diversity, the Principle of Social Variety. The second canon recognizes that healthy human society flourishes through diversity of talents, conditions, and functions rather than through enforced equality of condition or outcome. This principle stands directly opposed to the modern egalitarian obsession that seeks to eliminate all meaningful distinctions and reduce human beings to interchangeable units in a vast social machine designed by ideological engineers. Nature herself teaches this fundamental lesson with unmistakable clarity. No two snowflakes are identical, no two trees grow in precisely the same manner, no two musical compositions achieve beauty through identical notes, and no two human beings possess identical gifts, temperaments, or destinies. Attempts to force equality of condition violate both human nature and the practical requirements of civilized life. As I have long observed through careful study of American founding principles, the phrase, "all men are created equal," means equal in dignity before God and law, not equal in talents, circumstances, social function, or life outcomes. Consider the profound difference between a symphony orchestra and a marching band playing a single monotonous note. The orchestra creates transcendent beauty through the harmonious coordination of diverse instruments, each contributing its unique voice to a magnificent whole that exceeds the sum of its parts. The marching band produces only tedious uniformity. Similarly, human society achieves its highest development when individuals and groups contribute their distinctive gifts while recognizing their mutual dependence and shared moral obligations within an overarching order. This canon emphatically does not defend arbitrary privilege, hereditary castes, or systems that prevent individuals from developing their natural talents. Rather, it acknowledges that natural differences in ability, temperament, and calling necessarily create a social order where various roles serve the common good in different but equally essential ways. The farmer who feeds the community, the philosopher who seeks truth, the craftsman who creates beauty, the merchant who facilitates exchange, and the statesman who maintains order all possess functions that cannot be reduced to mere economic productivity or political power. Modern egalitarian ideology threatens this natural diversity by demanding that all differences be eliminated or explained away as products of oppression, systemic bias, or social construction. This leads inexorably to the tyranny of uniformity, where individuals are forced into artificial molds that deny their unique natures and callings. Such leveling impoverishes society by destroying the very differences that generate creativity, excellence, and mutual enrichment while creating resentment among those whose natural gifts are suppressed. The principle of social variety also recognizes that different communities develop different customs and institutions suited to their particular circumstances, history, and traditions. This organic diversity strengthens the whole of civilization by preserving multiple approaches to human flourishing and preventing the cultural monotony that breeds stagnation and eventual collapse. Chapter 3, The Democracy of the Dead, Tradition as Accumulated Wisdom. The third canon acknowledges that tradition represents the accumulated wisdom of countless generations, tested by time and refined through the harsh schoolmaster of human experience. This is not blind adherence to the past or mindless repetition of ancestral practices, but intelligent recognition that the dead outnumber the living by vast margins and their collective judgment deserves respectful consideration before we presume to overturn their carefully developed legacy. Burke captured this essential truth with characteristic eloquence when he observed that society is a partnership between those who are living, those who are dead, and those who are yet to be born. Each generation inherits a vast treasury of knowledge, customs, institutions, and moral insights developed through centuries of human experience, an inheritance purchased through immense suffering, sacrifice, and gradual learning from mistakes. To treat this inheritance as worthless simply because it is old demonstrates not enlightenment but the worst kind of temporal chauvinism and generational arrogance. This canon does not oppose all change or demand static preservation of every inherited practice, but it insists that change should be organic and gradual rather than revolutionary and destructive. When reforming social arrangements, we must carefully distinguish between what is accidentally corrupted and what is essentially sound, proceeding like skilled physicians who remove diseased tissue while preserving healthy organs rather than destroying the patient to cure the ailment. Consider how traditional institutions like marriage, family, local community, and inherited property have evolved slowly over millennia to serve fundamental human needs that remain constant across cultural variations. These institutions embody the practical wisdom of countless generations who discovered through trial and error what arrangements best promote human flourishing, social stability, and the transmission of culture from parents to children. Modern revolutionaries who seek to reconstruct these institutions according to abstract theories ignore this accumulated experience at society's peril. The principle of tradition also provides the continuity and stability that enable both individual development and genuine social progress. When each generation must reinvent basic social arrangements from scratch according to the latest intellectual fashion, human energy is wasted on problems already solved instead of addressing genuinely new challenges. Tradition functions like language itself, an inherited system that enables communication and thought rather than constraining them, providing the stable foundation upon which innovation can safely build. This canon particularly challenges the modern prejudice that automatically equates newer with better and older with obsolete. Many ancient wisdom traditions contain insights that modern civilization has lost or forgotten in its rush toward supposed progress. The classical understanding of virtue ethics, medieval concepts of natural law and just war, traditional practices of community mutual aid and local self-governance often prove superior to their modern replacements when judged by their actual fruits rather than their theoretical promises. Recognition of tradition's authority does not mean uncritical acceptance of everything inherited from the past, including obvious corruptions and historical injustices. Rather, it means approaching inherited wisdom with intellectual humility and requiring compelling evidence before rejecting practices that have served human communities well across many generations and diverse circumstances. Chapter 4: The Prudent Statesman, Politics as the Art of the Possible. The fourth canon recognizes that politics is fundamentally the art of the possible rather than the pursuit of abstract perfection or the implementation of theoretical blueprints. This principle of prudence stands firmly against both utopian radicalism and rigid ideological thinking, favoring instead practical wisdom that carefully considers consequences and works within existing circumstances to achieve gradual improvement that serves genuine human flourishing. Political prudence begins with accepting human nature as it actually exists rather than as we might wish it to be in our more optimistic moments. Human beings are neither angels who can be trusted with unlimited power nor devils who must be suppressed by force, but complex creatures capable of both nobility and selfishness, wisdom and folly, justice and corruption, often within the same individual. Political arrangements must account for these realities by balancing competing interests and checking dangerous concentrations of power while still enabling effective governance that serves the common good. This canon emphatically rejects the revolutionary mentality that seeks to remake society according to theoretical blueprints drawn up by intellectuals who often possess little practical experience with the complexities of human motivation and social organization. Such efforts invariably produce results far worse than the problems they claim to solve because they ignore the unintended consequences of rapid change and the intricate complexity of social relationships that have developed organically over generations. The French Revolution's attempt to create a republic of virtue through revolutionary terror, communism's effort to build a classless society through totalitarian dictatorship, and fascism's promise to create a perfect national community through state control all demonstrate the inevitable failure of utopian politics that refuses to acknowledge human limitations and the organic nature of social development. Instead, prudent politics works like a skilled gardener who understands soil conditions, seasonal cycles, plant requirements, and the patient cultivation necessary for healthy growth. Such a gardener does not try to force roses to bloom in winter or corn to grow in shade, but works with natural patterns to achieve the best possible results under existing conditions. Similarly, the prudent statesman seeks to improve society by building upon its existing strengths and gradually correcting its weaknesses through careful reform rather than destructive revolution. This approach requires what Burke called a computing principle, the practical ability to weigh costs and benefits, consider timing and circumstances, anticipate unintended consequences, and choose courses of action that are both morally sound and practically achievable given human nature and existing conditions. It means preferring reform to revolution, persuasion to force, incremental progress to dramatic gestures, and tested methods to untried experiments. The principle of prudence also recognizes that different societies may require different political arrangements based on their particular history, culture, religious traditions, and circumstances. What works well in one context may prove disastrous when imposed upon another without consideration of local conditions. This understanding opposes both the imperial imposition of uniform political systems and the ideological assumption that one political model fits all human communities regardless of their distinctive characteristics. In contemporary politics, this canon challenges both progressive utopianism that promises to solve all social problems through government programs and reactionary nostalgia that seeks to return to an idealized past, calling instead for thoughtful statesmanship that preserves what is valuable while adapting prudently to genuinely changed circumstances. Chapter 5: The Chains of Custom, Prescription as Social Wisdom. The fifth canon acknowledges that long-established customs and institutions possess prescriptive authority derived from their proven ability to serve fundamental human needs across multiple generations and varying circumstances. This principle recognizes that social arrangements which have survived the harsh test of time embody collective wisdom that exceeds any individual's theoretical understanding or any single generation's limited perspective on human nature and social organization. Prescription differs significantly from mere tradition in that it carries genuine legal and moral weight rooted in practical success rather than sentimental attachment. When customs become deeply embedded in a society's fabric through long usage and general acceptance, they acquire a presumptive legitimacy that places the burden of proof upon those who would change them. This does not make them sacred or unchangeable, but it requires reformers to demonstrate clear necessity and probable benefit before overturning established practices that have served communities well. The principle operates much like common law, which develops through the accumulated decisions of countless judges dealing with actual cases and real human conflicts rather than through abstract legal codes imposed from above by theoretical jurisprudence. Each precedent builds upon previous wisdom while adapting to new circumstances, creating a living body of law that responds to genuine needs. This organic development produces more nuanced and practical results than purely theoretical systems because it emerges from actual human experience rather than speculative philosophy divorced from practical consequences. Consider how the English Constitution developed through centuries of practical adjustment and gradual reform rather than revolutionary reconstruction according to abstract principles. Parliamentary procedures, judicial independence, the balance between Crown and Commons, and the protection of traditional liberties emerged gradually as practical solutions to specific problems faced by real communities. This prescriptive development created a more flexible and durable system than the rigid written constitutions that revolutionary movements typically produce in moments of ideological enthusiasm. The canon of prescription also applies crucially to social institutions like property rights, which develop through long usage and practical necessity rather than theoretical justification alone. When people have worked land, built homes, established businesses, and created wealth through generations of effort, they acquire prescriptive claims that governments should respect even if formal legal titles are incomplete or bureaucratically questionable. This principle protects ordinary people against both technocratic interference and revolutionary expropriation. In family relationships, Prescriptive authority explains why parents possess natural authority over their children and why family obligations extend far beyond legal contracts or government definitions. These relationships develop through daily interaction, mutual dependence, shared sacrifice, and inherited responsibility rather than abstract agreement, creating bonds that law can recognize and protect but not create or replace. The principle of prescription challenges modern tendencies to treat all social arrangements as arbitrary constructions that can be redesigned at will according to the latest social theory or political fashion. It reminds us that many customs we thoughtlessly take for granted, courtesy, honesty, promise-keeping, mutual aid, respect for elders, protection of the vulnerable, function as essential social cement that holds communities together without need for constant government enforcement. Destroying these prescriptive bonds in the name of liberation or progress often produces not freedom but enemy and social collapse, as individuals find themselves isolated and communities lose the organic connections that make civilized life possible. The prescriptive authority of established customs provides the stable foundation upon which genuine freedom can flourish, much as established language enables creative expression rather than constraining it. Modern societies ignore prescription at their peril, for it represents the accumulated wisdom of countless generations who discovered through practical experience what social arrangements actually work to promote human flourishing rather than what ideological theory suggests should work in an abstract sense. Chapter 6: The Complexity of Human Needs, Recognizing Individual Variation. The sixth canon recognizes that human beings possess complex and varied needs that cannot be reduced to simple formulas or satisfied through uniform solutions imposed by ideological systems. This principle stands firmly against all forms of reductionism that attempt to explain human behavior and motivation through single factors like economic interest, biological drive, class consciousness, or social conditioning, acknowledging instead the rich complexity that makes each person a unique individual rather than a predictable social unit. Human nature encompasses material needs for food, shelter, security, and comfort, but extends far beyond these basic requirements to include profound needs for meaning, beauty, community, transcendence, personal fulfillment, creative expression, and moral purpose. Different individuals and cultures prioritize these needs differently based on temperament, circumstances, and inherited traditions, and healthy societies must provide multiple pathways for human flourishing rather than imposing single models of the good life determined by political authorities or social theorists. This complexity explains why utopian schemes consistently fail regardless of their ideological orientation or initial popularity. Whether capitalist theories that reduce everything to market relations and economic calculation, socialist theories that explain everything through class struggle and material conditions, therapeutic theories that treat all human problems as psychological disorders, or technological theories that promise to solve human problems through scientific management, single-factor explanations cannot account for the full range of human motivation, aspiration, and creative potential that emerges from our nature as complex beings. Real people live richly textured lives that resist simplification into ideological categories. They possess multiple loyalties, competing desires, contradictory impulses, and changing priorities that cannot be captured by any systematic theory of human behavior. They find meaning through family relationships, religious faith, cultural traditions, creative work, service to others, intellectual pursuit, and countless other sources that vary according to individual temperament and circumstance. The canon also recognizes that individuals vary significantly in their natural talents, temperaments, and callings, requiring different social arrangements to reach their full potential. Some people thrive in competitive environments while others flourish in cooperative settings. Some are naturally drawn to intellectual pursuits while others prefer practical work with their hands. Some seek public recognition and leadership while others value privacy, contemplation, and family life. Some possess artistic temperaments while others excel at organization and administration. Healthy societies honor these differences rather than forcing everyone into identical molds determined by egalitarian ideology or economic efficiency. This principle has profound implications for education, which should develop each student's unique gifts and prepare them for their particular calling rather than producing standardized products for industrial consumption. It applies equally to economics, where multiple forms of property ownership, association, and exchange serve different human needs better than any single systematic approach. The recognition of human complexity also counsels intellectual humility about social engineering and bureaucratic management of human affairs. Since we cannot fully predict how individuals will respond to changed circumstances or new policies, reforms should be modest, experimental, and reversible rather than sweeping and permanent. This approach allows society to learn from actual experience and adjust course when unexpected consequences emerge from the implementation of theoretical solutions. Contemporary culture particularly needs this reminder as various ideological movements attempt to reduce human identity to single characteristics like race, gender, sexual orientation, or economic class. While these aspects of identity may matter significantly to individuals, they do not exhaust human complexity or determine all aspects of personal development and social relationships. Each person remains a unique individual with multiple loyalties, interests, and sources of meaning that resist categorical simplification. This canon ultimately affirms human dignity by recognizing that each person possesses irreducible worth and potential that cannot be captured by sociological analysis, bureaucratic categorization, or ideological classification systems that treat people as representatives of abstract groups rather than as individuals worthy of respect and consideration. Chapter 7: The Permanence of Human Nature, Eternal Principles for Changing Times. The final synthesis of these 6 canons reveals why conservative principles never become obsolete or historically irrelevant. They address the permanent features of human nature and social existence that persist across all historical changes, technological advances, and cultural transformations. While surface phenomena like technologies, fashions, and political arrangements evolve constantly, the fundamental realities of human experience remain remarkably constant across cultures, centuries, and civilizations. Human beings in every age and society have always needed transcendent meaning that connects their individual lives to larger purposes beyond material accumulation and immediate pleasure. They require social arrangements that honor both individual dignity and communal obligations, protecting personal freedom while maintaining the social bonds necessary for civilized existence. They benefit from the accumulated wisdom of previous generations while adapting this inheritance to new circumstances and challenges. They flourish under political systems that balance competing interests through prudent compromise rather than imposing ideological uniformity through force. Throughout history, people have developed prescriptive bonds through custom and daily interaction that create social cohesion without requiring constant government intervention or bureaucratic management. They possess complex natures that resist reduction to simple explanatory schemes or single-factor theories of human motivation and behavior. These patterns repeat across vastly different historical contexts because they reflect permanent features of what it means to be human rather than temporary cultural arrangements. These permanent features explain why ancient wisdom remains startlingly relevant to contemporary problems and why modern attempts to transcend traditional insights typically end in disaster. Aristotle's analysis of political systems and their characteristic corruptions, Augustine's understanding of human motivation and the limits of earthly politics, Aquinas's synthesis of reason and faith in approaching social questions, and Burke's insights into the organic nature of social change speak to enduring aspects of human experience that transcend their particular historical contexts and cultural limitations. The conservative recognition of permanent things does not mean rigid opposition to all change or nostalgic attachment to outdated arrangements. but rather insistent demand that change serve authentic human flourishing rather than abstract theoretical goals or ideological visions divorced from human nature. When reformers understand human nature correctly and work with rather than against its fundamental requirements, they can design genuine improvements that build upon rather than contradict our deepest needs and highest capacities. This perspective offers realistic hope in an age of rapid transformation and cultural confusion. While surface phenomena change with bewildering speed, the underlying realities that conservative principles address remain remarkably stable across historical epochs. The human hunger for meaning and transcendence, the practical need for community and mutual obligation, the value of inherited wisdom and cultural transmission, the importance of prudence and moderation in political affairs, the authority that emerges from successful custom and prescription, and the irreducible complexity of human nature persist regardless of technological innovation or social revolution. For individuals seeking reliable guidance in uncertain times, these principles provide trustworthy landmarks that do not shift with intellectual fashions or political movements. They suggest that investing in family relationships, participating actively in local communities, preserving and transmitting cultural traditions, practicing political moderation and prudent judgment, respecting established institutions that serve genuine human needs, and cultivating personal virtue and moral character will always yield better results than chasing fashionable innovations or joining revolutionary schemes that promise to remake human nature itself. The 6 canons thus reveal conservatism not as nostalgic reaction to inevitable progress or stubborn resistance to necessary change, but as timeless wisdom about the permanent conditions that enable human beings and their communities to flourish across varying circumstances. They remain eternally relevant because they address the eternal dimensions of human existence that no amount of technological progress or social engineering can eliminate or fundamentally alter. Conclusion. These 6 canons endure across centuries and civilizations because they correspond to unchanging realities of human existence rather than temporary political arrangements or cultural fashions. They offer wisdom for navigating contemporary challenges precisely because they transcend the partisan divisions and ideological conflicts of our particular historical moment. Whether addressing questions of education, economics, family life, governance, or cultural preservation, these principles provide tested guidance rooted in centuries of human experience and practical wisdom. For those who would preserve the permanent things against the revolutionary spirit of our age, understanding these canons becomes essential intellectual equipment. They remind us that genuine conservatism is neither mere reaction nor nostalgic sentiment, but serious philosophical engagement with the deepest truths about human nature and social order discovered through long experience. In a world obsessed with innovation and perpetual change, they point toward the unchanging foundations upon which all authentic progress must build. The task before thoughtful conservatives is not to apply these principles mechanically or use them as weapons in partisan warfare, but to understand their essential spirit and adapt their accumulated wisdom to the particular circumstances of our time while preserving their fundamental insights about what makes human life worth living.